A wealth myth that can bankrupt you and leave you with nothing might begin with just a seemingly appealing idea in a coffee shop. This idea claims to utilize AI and ESG, the most cutting-edge and correct concepts, to tailor a zero-risk, high-return investment project just for you. Now, I'd like you to pause for a second and do a thought experiment with me. Imagine a project founder, impeccably dressed and with a near-perfect resume, sitting in front of you, telling you about a project he has that promises guaranteed principal and interest, guaranteeing a 100% return annually. That is, doubling your money every year. What would you think? Would you be tempted? Before you rush to say, I'm not that stupid, let's listen to today's story first. Because what we're going to reveal isn't just a scam, but how human nature's calculations were completely disrupted by a meticulously crafted lie. This is a true story of going from 0 to 10 billion, and then from 10 billion to 0 in an instant. Section 1. The temptation, the allure of packaging. The main character of the story, we call it Project Oasis. In early 2024, just when everyone was talking about AI and sustainable development, the Oasis project emerged. Its promotional brochure was designed like a love letter to the future, featuring images of lush green forests, spinning windmills, and rows of data servers gleaming with a high-tech blue light. The slogan is particularly loud. Invest in the future so that every penny you spend contributes to the growth of both the planet and your wallet. The founder of this project is a Professor Chen. His resume is practically perfect. A PhD from a prestigious overseas university, a former Wall Street veteran, and the author of several papers on quantitative trading and environmental technology. In all promotional materials, he is always impeccably dressed in a suit, with a determined gaze, and his background is either a global financial center or a high-end technology forum. His attire and demeanor create an expert persona that makes it hard not to believe him. The Oasis project claims to have developed a proprietary AI algorithm that can accurately predict stock price fluctuations in the global carbon emission trading market and emerging green energy companies, then achieve stable and extremely high returns through high-frequency arbitrage. This claim is brimming with technological sophistication and forward thinking. It precisely addresses two pain points of our time: the anxiety about making money and the desire to do something good. What's even more problematic is its product design. They launched investment packages with different terms. A 1-month investment yields an annualized return of 30%. A 6-month investment yields an annualized return of 60%. And if you lock it in for a year, the annualized return can reach as high as 120%. Moreover, they promised that if the return does not meet the target upon maturity, the company would make up the difference. Does this sound like a fantasy? It does. Guo Shuqing, former chairman of the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission, once said, a return on investment exceeding 6% should raise questions. Exceeding 8% is very dangerous. And above 10%, you should be prepared to lose all your principal. But the Oasis project always has a perfect explanation. They'll tell you it because technological innovation has broken down the barriers of traditional finance and is the only window of opportunity for ordinary people to seize the dividends of the times. They'll say, you don't dare to invest simply because your understanding is still stuck in the previous era. To completely disarm you, they even rented an office in the most expensive Grade A office building in the city center. When you walk into that bright and clean office, with walls covered with various award certificates, me and partner logos, your psychological defenses have already crumbled without you even realizing it. This is the first act of the scam, using the trendiest concepts, the most authoritative personas, and the most enticing rewards, carefully packaged into a perfect temptation. Section 2. The investigation, detective's perspective. But does all of this really hold water? When we peel back the glittering shell of Project Oasis and examine its core, with the eyes of a detective, we will find cracks everywhere. First and foremost, the most crucial question: where does the money come from? Every business model must have its own revenue-generating capabilities, but the so-called high-frequency trading of the Oasis project is an unverifiable black box from beginning to end. Everything you see is just the numbers in their app's backend and fancy PowerPoint presentations. Want to see the real transaction records? Sorry, trade secret. This is what all Ponzi schemes have in common: a vague business model and the unclear destination of funds. Their profit model, frankly, is exceptionally simple, yet exceptionally cruel, using money from later investors to pay earlier investors. It's a game of musical chairs, the only suspense being when the music stops. Next, let's take a look at that perfect Professor Chen. In today's information age, verifying someone's background is not difficult, but you find that all the information about Professor Chen comes either from their own promotional materials or from small media outlets that can be accessed by paying money. He is not listed in the alumni directories of the prestigious overseas universities he claims to have graduated from, nor is he listed in the Wall Street banks he claims to have worked for. Scammers are well aware of how important credibility is. They forge certificates, steal information from real practitioners, and even use AI to generate fake bank statements and official documents to create a false impression of professionalism and reliability. Third, and most importantly, the promotion model. The Oasis project doesn't rely on advertising. Instead, it uses an older and more effective method: recruiting. They've set up a so-called dynamic income, which is essentially a referral reward. The more friends you bring in who invest, the higher your commission becomes. The most insidious aspect of this model is that it turns every early investor into an accomplice and promoter of the scam. You might initially just want to share a good opportunity, but unknowingly, you're using your reputation to dig a deeper pit for those behind you. You think you're expanding your network, but you're actually just developing a downline. Unreasonably high returns, an unverifiable and ambiguous business model, and a promotional method that relies on viral expansion through recruitment. These three characteristics are like three ironclad rules etched into the DNA of a Ponzi scheme. So when you see these three things appearing at the same time, no matter if it's disguised as AI, blockchain, or the metaverse, remember, its true name is only one fraud. Section 3. The expansion, a feast of madness. However, rational reminders are always so vulnerable in the face of a frenzied atmosphere. When the Oasis project first launched, it seemed like a perfect investment myth. The first batch of investors did indeed receive the promised high interest rates. Someone tried investing 10,000 yuan, and a month later, the principal and interest were indeed withdrawn. This kind of successful withdrawal case is the most fatal part of the scam. It lets you personally experience making money is so easy, completely dispelling any remaining doubts in your mind. And so, the chain of trust began to spread. People are frantically showing off the ever-increasing numbers in their WeChat groups, boasting about how much profit they've received that day. The groups are filled with cheers of "Thank you, Professor Chen," and embracing the new era. The shills, referred to as teachers, constantly create a buzz in the groups, sharing what bags they've bought, what cars they've upgraded, and how much their quality of life has improved. The fervor created by this herd mentality and group pressure is incredibly contagious. Your colleagues, friends, and even family are all reveling in this feast. If you don't join in, you'll feel like a fool who's out of touch with the times. At that point, you're no longer afraid of losing money, but rather of missing out on a fortune. The scam then entered its second phase, rapid expansion. Project Oasis began hosting various high-end cocktail parties and wealth forums. At these events, they would invite so-called economists to endorse them, and even fabricate photos with celebrities to further embellish their image. The company's operations also grew rapidly, expanding from one city to more than a dozen cities across the country. Every new member firmly believed that they would not be the last one left holding the bag. This was, in fact, a meticulously orchestrated psychological drama. The con artists precisely exploited every weakness of human nature: greed, fear, wishful thinking, and vanity. What they were selling wasn't financial products at all, but a dream of getting rich overnight, an illusion of becoming a winner in life. From 1 million to 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, 10 billion. The Ponzi scheme grew bigger and bigger, like a snowball. In this frenzy of money, almost everyone lost their most basic judgment. All they saw was the string of constantly fluctuating numbers in their accounts. But no one thought about what was actually supporting those numbers. Section 4. The collapse. Even the grandest feast must eventually come to an end. When a Ponzi scheme expands faster than it can pay interest, collapse is its only fate. For Project Oasis, this moment came unexpectedly. It was an ordinary Monday, nothing out of the ordinary. In the morning, the investment group was as lively as ever, with people discussing market trends and dreaming about the future. But in the afternoon, someone suddenly discovered that the Oasis project app was inaccessible, with only a small line of text displayed. System under emergency maintenance, expected to be restored within 24 hours. At first, no one panicked. This had happened before, and customer service would always reassure them with excuses like too many users, the server needs upgrading. But this time, 24 hours passed, 48 hours passed, and the app was still blank. Panic began to spread like a virus in various groups. Some people called customer service, only to be met with a busy signal. Others rushed to their local offices, only to find them deserted and in complete disarray. The Professor Chen, who was once hailed as a god, and all his core team seemed to have vanished into thin air, and all their means of contact became invalid. Only then were people finally jolted awake from their get-rich-quick dreams by a bucket of cold water. The numbers in their accounts that they had once been so proud of, representing luxury cars and mansions, suddenly became a string of meaningless gibberish. To increase their investments, some took out online loans, some mortgaged their properties, and some even embezzled public funds. A financial empire worth 10 billion collapsed overnight, vanishing into nothingness. This is the inevitable end of every Ponzi scheme. It's never about failed investments. It's a blatant plunder of wealth. It creates no value. It only transfers wealth from the pockets of thousands of ordinary people to the accounts of a few fraudsters, where it's then squandered or transferred overseas. The most tragic thing is not the collapse of the scam. It's that, even at the moment of collapse, many people still refused to believe that they were wrong from day one. This story may sound extreme, but similar scenarios unfold around us every day, albeit in different forms. Have you or someone you know encountered similar high-yield temptations? How did you assess and respond to them? Share your story or thoughts in the comments section. Perhaps your comment can help someone avoid the same pitfall. If you found today's content helpful, please remember to like, save, and share it with everyone you care about. At the end of the video, let's go back to the question at the beginning. Faced with a promise of 100% annual returns, can you really guarantee that you won't fall for it? The story of Project Oasis tells us that a scam's success is never solely based on greed. It relies more on packaging information, fabricating authority, and accurately grasping the psychology of a group. Scammers use terms like AI and ESG, which we don't understand, but feel are impressive to create information asymmetry. They use celebrity endorsements and luxurious offices to build false trust, and they use high commissions and social pressure to drive viral spread. What they have built is a systemic cognitive trap. Faced with this trap, any ordinary person could become prey due to a moment of wishful thinking or a lack of understanding of new things. Therefore, understanding this story today is not about making us overly cautious and losing faith in all investments. On the contrary, it's about helping us gain true immunity. This immunity comes from respect for common financial sense. Remember, any investment that promises guaranteed profits and super high returns is most likely a trap. This immunity comes from the habit of independent thinking and cross-verification. Don't blindly follow any so-called masters or insider information. Ask more questions, do more research, and check the filing qualifications of institutions and products on the official websites of the China Securities Regulatory Commission or banks. Most importantly, this immunity comes from honesty with our inner desires. We must acknowledge that everyone has the urge to take shortcuts, and then learn to control that urge. There is no such thing as easy success in this world, nor is there any wealth gained without effort. True wealth growth always comes only from creating value and from a deep understanding and prudent management of risk. Hopefully, today's story can become a valuable tool in your cognitive toolbox, allowing you to remain more clear-headed and composed when faced with dazzling tales of wealth in the future.